Okay, today's lesson, if you missed class or you did not understand anything, this is what we covered in class today. Now, the first thing that you have to do is you have to go back to your graphic organizer that you completed the other day that's titled Literary Element Symbols. Okay? And if you do not know where that is, then you will have to go back to the lesson from the other day for that graphic organizer. Now remember, on this graphic organizer, we determined that the symbol was the black box, and I'm actually going to add the lottery in here as well. I really think that the black box and the lottery are one and the same, because when we talk about the black box, it is part of the lottery. And we talked about what the lottery symbolizes. And a lot of you came to the conclusion that it symbolizes tradition. Okay? We gathered two quotes. And we explained our quotes. So we had quote number one, quote number two. We had explanation for quote one, and we had explanation for quote number two. Again, we determined that the lottery symbolized tradition. We talked about the fact that the lottery is negative in nature because somebody died. And not only did they die, but it was a gruesome death. They were stoned to death. And we talked about the significance of the symbol, and it says the lottery is evidently important to some of the people, Old Man Warner in the village, because it brings good luck. It's tradition. It's something they've done every year. But does the lottery symbolize an outdated or cruel tradition? And I've got a question mark there, okay? So now the graphic organizer that is provided with today's lesson, we're going to try to put all of this together for a coherent paragraph. Now, a couple of the things that I want you to understand is that we've talked about assertion statements before. An assertion statement is an analytical type statement. Okay, remember, an analytical statement is one that can be argued. Okay, so it is really kind of a little bit of an equation. Your assertion statement is going to be the literary element that we're talking about, in this case, symbol, plus an analytical verb, plus the author's purpose. So the first thing that I want to type in this box right here is going to be the lottery. That's my symbol, okay? The analytical verb, I'm going to leave blank right now, but the author's purpose, now I want you to understand that the author's purpose is always one of these three things. It's going to be either to entertain the reader. This could be humor. It could be to scare somebody. Also, to inform / explain something, and then persuade. Is the author trying to persuade somebody to believe something a little bit different? Okay? In this case, we have to ask ourselves, with the lottery, what is Shirley Jackson trying to do? Is she trying to entertain the reader? Is she trying to inform or explain? Or is she trying to persuade? And I think you could probably argue any of these. You could say that she's trying to scare people, because if you go back and look at the little introduction to the short story, she's a horror writer, so she likes to write horrific things. All right. And so she writes this story about the lottery and somebody that is stoned to death. You could also look at it as she's informing people of an old tradition called the lottery, in which people feel like the lottery is going to bring the village good luck for the harvest. And she might even be trying to persuade people that some traditions are simply outdated. Okay. So you might say the lottery blank for the analytical verb is to persuade people that some traditions are simply outdated. Okay. Now, our analytical verb are these verbs right here. And so you have to kind of take a look at through these different verbs and see which one really kind of fits. And if I go back, the lottery, and I might reveals, and here I could probably get away with eliminating I don't know if I can strike through those. I could get away with eliminating persuade the people. And so my sentence might be the lottery reveals that some traditions are simply outdated. That's an assertion statement. What you have to put here now in the context, which is a brief summary, you need to write a very brief summary of the lottery, keeping the main events. And so you might think that the first main event is, establishes that the village has an old tradition called the lottery. Many of the villagers you might say the villagers gather annually to see who is chosen in the lottery. Old Man Warner believes the tradition is a good one, while others believe that maybe it is time to do away with the lottery. And then we find out that one of the villagers is chosen and is stoned to death. Those are your main events, and you just have to type those into a sentence, and you might want to eliminate some of those words. You want to go back over here to your graphic organizer for quote number 1. You can go ahead and you can copy and paste it there. You want your explanation for quote 1. You've got quote number 2. And then you've got your explanation, quote 2. And this is going to be the basis for your paragraph now. And so what you're going to have to do is combine your assertion statement. You're going to have to combine your summary, as well as your quotes and your explanations into a coherent paragraph. And so then you are going to combine all of this together for one final paragraph that will be submitted. Okay?